This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar.
Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Are you focused on this right now, or are you lost in your appearance on?
No, sorry. I he's saying that I have a lack of height and a bad back. Half of that is true.
The lack of height is definitely true. I didn't know about the back part. Hello. There you go. I wasn't sure if you could hear me for some reason. All right. Hello, everybody. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22. Taking you for the next hour and 25, let's call it. We got open locker room at 3:30, so we're going to try to do this without rushing.
Hang on. I know we're up against it. We may need to hit an alternate open, though.
Oh, my God.
We may need a... You need a second? Okay.
Yeah. He needs,
okay. I have a feeling it might be good this week.
What?
I just have a feeling it might be good.
What might be good?
The open.
Excuse me. I know where this is heading, and you know that I'm already embarrassed by this entire thing. So I'm glad that you're milking it now. I really appreciate that.
I don't think what's there to be embarrassed about.
You're in a room full of people, and you're getting singled out. I'm not like I don't. Believe it or not, as somebody that like talks and puts themselves out there for a living, I'm very socially awkward in that sense.
Oh, like, no, I can relate. And you heard in the open from that 2 weeks ago, I was being singled out on 98.5 for trying to get Bruce Springsteen tickets.
Yes. And
the difference is I was called, it was said I had a bad back and that I was short. You were getting complimented on your football knowledge by the quarterback of the New England Patriots.
You like to talk about the scheme, so.
There it is.
The laugh
Evan might as well be the offensive coordinator or something.
There it is.
Maybe in an off-season show we can talk about what my fever dream offense is for the Patriots if I was running the show. But
if Mac had his way,
I have to admit it would be a lot like what Billy O is installing for the Patriots. I would say I think Alabama Billy O's offense, those two offenses together are basically where I would head if I was running an offense, which is definitely not going to happen, by the way. And I am a little bit flattered, but I know
you enjoyed that a little bit. You enjoyed it a little bit. You enjoyed the attention.
At the same time, I know that he's busting my chops.
Just hoss-wide juking teams to death.
Yeah, RPOing
down
them
the
to
field,
death, of course. Bunch of slants, bunch of underneath stuff. Yak monsters. Like my whole roster, my dream entire Patriots roster would just be Deebo Samuels, right? Like just a bunch of Deebo Samuels that can just run with the football. Take your low efficiency jump balls outside the numbers and do those on your own time. Take your running game and do that on its own time for sure.
Oh, there would be no more runs.
Let's do short passes, dink and dunk, and let's yak it up. That's how I would run the offense, and I think in a lot of ways that's how Bill O'Brien is scheming this offense up, which is why I'm excited about it. But I don't want to talk offense off the top of the show, but I do have a take about the Patriots offense, but I want to start defense for a second,
okay.
Which is rare for us because we normally do this the total opposite direction. But the reason why I want to start defense, I've been thinking about this more and more as the weeks and days have turned into now almost hours for the Patriots regular season opener on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is where I'm at with this matchup, Alex. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how you feel like this is going to go. The Patriots have had all offseason now to prepare for this game. They've known that they were going to play the Eagles since May.
Correct.
When the schedule came out. They've known they were going to play Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles since May. Now, that was after the draft, but at the same time, just stay with me here. They drafted 3 rookies at the top of the draft on defense that are athletic, that the second and third round picks can tackle, can chase guys down, can cover a whole lot of ground, and you have a number 1 corner now who can take A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and hopefully cover those guys pretty well. So they got a bunch of help from the draft on defense. They're returning a bunch of their starters and regulars from last year anyways, and they're adding this on top of it. They've had all offseason to prepare. Show me something, Bill. Show me something against a mobile quarterback. Show me something against one of these new agey, college-style, option-heavy offenses. It's time to finally put to bed the concerns about this team against mobile quarterbacks and against offenses that run themselves like Philadelphia does. Show me something, have something, do something creative, do something different than what you normally do. We saw it last year with Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. We've seen it in other instances in the past. I truly feel like now they have the horses to stop an offense like this. This isn't 2019 when it's, not great players, but Hightower, Van Noy, Jawan Bentley, like guys like that. They don't have the sideline to sideline speed and the athleticism in space to keep up with these types of offenses. And that was a systemic, kind of personnel switch that they had to make. You have Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips, Jabril Peppers, Jalen Mills, and Marty Mapu. Those 5 guys, we'll call them safeties, call them defensive backs, linebackers, whatever you want to call them. Those guys should help in a matchup like this. Those guys should be out on the field in a matchup like this. I want to see the Patriots finally solve this problem. I have some ideas of how they might get there, and we can break those down. But that's my main thing about this, is that you went into the offseason and you kind of loaded up on defense. We've talked about this a lot. I'm not saying they haven't done anything to try to upgrade the offense personnel-wise, but in particular defensively, we know that they feel pretty stacked on that side of the football. There you go. Here's right out of the gate is one of your biggest tests of the season, and I want to see something exotic and creative up their sleeve for Philadelphia and their RPO package and their read option plays and the different type of things that they do with Jalen Hurts. You have to find an answer to this eventually. Yeah,
just on that, you talk about there's been, I think, a lot of talk about, the Patriots can't beat a mobile quarterback. I'm not saying that's wrong, but another big issue, and these are in some ways related, in some ways not, is these RPO-heavy teams. And according to Pro Football Reference, no team ran more RPOs last year than the Philadelphia Eagles, 185, more than 20 more than the next closest team, that's the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
So how many times have we watched the Miami Dolphins just that RPO slant to Jalen Waddle just kill the Patriots? You're going to see a lot of similar concepts on Sunday, and between that and the mobile quarterback, these are things they've had trouble with. It feels like they know they've had trouble with it, like based on the way they drafted, like you alluded to.
I would also say based on the way they've practiced in training camp as well.
That's a good point.
I think we did see more of this, and I've talked to some of the players around the locker room this week, and they have mentioned, look, we're going to see this almost every week now. Now, not every quarterback's Jalen Hurts. Like next week, they're going to play Tua, totally different style quarterback. But at the same time, like you just mentioned, it's still an RPO offense on first and second down. So whether or not the quarterback's legs are a big time factor or not, they are going to be playing teams every single week that run some sort of RPO element. It is now a part of the NFL. It's not, you can't hide from it anymore. It's going to be every single week.
Yeah, and I would say, too, the Eagles don't just run a lot. They're good at them. I was trying to stall to get this number. 8.1 yards per play on RPOs. Yeah. The only team that ran over 100 RPOs that had a better number is the Dolphins, and it's marginal difference.
And it's also a lot of yak with those Dolphins.
It's a lot of yak, but it feels like this is something they've known they've got to be better at. To go back to your opening take about the draft, I know they're hesitant to play rookies generally, especially in week one. And I've said this, I don't want them to have a base defense. When I say, I don't mean base defense in the sense that like 3-4. I mean just like a, starting 11. I don't want them to have that. I want players rotating in and out because the strength of this defense is the potential to be multiple. The potential to be versatile and not throwing the same looks repeatedly. That being said, and I feel that way big picture, I want Marte Mapu on the field Sunday. I want Marte Mapu on the field a lot on Sunday because this is the guy you drafted to go sideline to sideline and spy these kinds of quarterbacks. Let's see it. Let's see if he can do it. Yeah,
and look, I know that it's a big jump from where Marty Mapu was playing in college at Sacramento State at the FCS level to the NFL level, but there's so much great film of him at that level closing on quarterbacks and taking down quarterbacks that are trying to leave the pocket. Like that, he can shoot out of a cannon and he can close in a hurry. And those are things that you need to be able to do to put pressure on the QB. I think that's the one thing that watching some Hurts film over the last almost week now, because it had that extra time in the bye week, the one thing that you can kind of get him on is that he doesn't handle pressure quite as well as you would expect for a quarterback that's the MVP runner-up. I think that if you can get him pressure, under pressure. And look, 3rd and long is tough for every team, but this team's efficiency relative to the rest of the league does drop in 3rd and long situations. Now, it's so much easier said than done to get them into 3rd and 8. But theoretically, if you can, they're human in that situation.
It's funny you say that. I'm writing my keys to the game. They'll be up tomorrow on 98.5thesportshub.com. My overarching theme of the whole thing is easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing for this Patriots defense. Bill said it this week. Let me pull up the exact quote here. Bill said this week, and of course my computer's being weird, something about, where is it here? I don't think it's a big mystery about what they do. They just do it well. They're well balanced, so you can't overplay one thing without giving up something else.
Yeah.
We know what they're going to do. Bill knows what they're going to do. Gerard, Steve know what they're going to do. They're just so freaking good at it that sometimes it doesn't matter. By the way, should look familiar to Patriots fans. That's how it was run here for a long time.
Yeah.
There are, you look, and we'll get into some of the specific stuff. I think there are a lot of elements in this game, a lot of elements of the matchup you look at, and you're like, if the Patriots can do this, they're going to have a chance. It's not a matter if they have to identify it or recognize it or will if A, then B, if B, then C. It's just do this, but you have to be able to do it. And that's where that, again, the umbrella thing for this game, especially when you're talking about the Patriots defense, is easier said than done.
I feel like they should have the horses on defense now to be able to do it. They should have the personnel. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to shut out the Eagles. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they should have the personnel, I think, to hold the Eagles into the low 20s, which should give them a chance to win the game. And I really feel that strongly about that. The one thing, and I don't want to get too bogged down right off the top on the scheme minutia and all that kind of stuff.
Well, then it wouldn't be Catch-22.
But I didn't. Well, no, we're going to talk about it. I just want to kind of set the table here before we get all into it. The other thing I would just say about the one big thing that I would take away from what they probably should do game plan wise, and I want to explain why this isn't as scary as it sounds. I truly believe that they should be playing man coverage on early downs in this game. The one thing that really gives defenses a ton of trouble when they try to RPO or go up against RPO teams is playing a lot of spot drop zone, because just in theory, if you're a linebacker, if you're Jawan Bentley in spot drop zone and you have the middle hook, right? You have the middle of the field zone and the short and intermediate area, 8-yard zone. You have the middle hook and you have the B gap. You can't be both places, right? So by RPOing you in that situation where you're in zone and you have a coverage assignment and you have a run responsibility, they can put you in conflict and they can make you wrong the entire game. You play the B gap, we're going to throw it by your ear. You play the pass lane, we're going to run it down your throat. You'll never be right. You'll be on your heels the entire game. So what a lot of college teams do, and a lot of teams that have been successful in the NFL at stopping RPOs do, is they play a lot of man coverage. And essentially they treat it as two separate plays. The 7 guys in the box are playing run, and the guys on the outside are playing pass, but don't worry about the other responsibility, right? So Jawan Bentley, if you're the Mike linebacker in this scenario, don't worry about A.J. Brown. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is stopping the run.
Plug the hole, yeah.
And now what you take out of it is the conflict element of it. You don't have to make these post-snap reads and try to play the cat and mouse game. I think that's the problem that the Patriots run themselves into, is that they're too passive against these RPO teams. Instead of trying to dictate terms, instead of trying to be the more aggressive team, they try to sit back and just read and react to everything. And they don't have the athletes, I think, in the years past, and maybe they have those now. But I think most of all, these two teams are just too good at running the RPO element that it makes it really difficult. Now, the adjustments will come. They'll have to come, because what the Eagles will do is they might open with their RPO package, test the Patriots on that, say, let's see what they got. Can they stop this? Because we know they've had problems with it in the past. If the Patriots show that they can stop it, well, then they're just going to start throwing bombs away to the ISOs on the outside, right? They're going to isolate A.J. Brown on Christian Gonzalez, and it's going to be a go ball down the field, which I don't know if the Patriots really love that matchup in that situation. So that's where the adjustments will have to come in, and you'll see more off coverage or zone coverage to protect against those things. But I think first and foremost, you have to come out and you have to play man-to-man. You have to be aggressive in the box, and you have to try to punch them in the mouth right off the bat and try to get them out of that sequencing. They are so dangerous when they are just running those option elements, whether it's just straight read option as a quarterback designed run, or it's RPO and all the window dressing, they'll motion guys. They have different types of route combinations they attach to it, screens, slant flats, curl flats, whatever the case may be. And they have a bunch of different things to throw at you in that package. If you can get them into a drop back passing game, I like your chances better, because then you can start spinning the dial on Hurts, right? They can try disguising and doing all those different things that they like to do. This is a game for the Patriots defense that's all about getting the Eagles off schedule. If they're ahead of the chains, they're going to put up a ton of points.
Yeah.
But if you can get them into longer down and distances, if you can get some negative plays out there, or just some incompletes on first downs, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be moving backwards. If you can get them off schedule, then you have a chance. And that's the game right there to me, is can they win on first and second down often enough that they can get into third and long, where they can really start to scheme stuff up and make things look different for Jalen Hurts.
And to me, again, that goes to slowing down those RPOs. We can get into coverage assignments in a second, but slowing down those RPOs. And our friend Taylor Kyles from CLNS had a really good stat this week.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, this is last year, Jalen Hurts led the NFL with a 110.8 passer rating from the pocket. That plummeted to 24 when he scrambled. So it's this weird mix of, you need to be able to knock Jalen Hurts off his spot, but you want him running, but you don't want him to run, if that makes sense. You want to create situations. You talk about the drop back passing game. He's not, I mean, a lot of this is the receivers too, but like, he can make plays from the pocket. I think this is a big week where they got to make him uncomfortable, move him off his spot. He wants to set his feet, whether it's inside the pocket, whether it's outside the pocket. He wants to set his feet. Don't let him set his feet when they go to that traditional passing game. And they'll run things like RPOs to give him more chances to throw from clean pockets. Yeah. But it goes back to your point. If you can keep them off schedule, some of that stuff isn't as available.
Yeah, and I think that when you say, to pressure him, the worst thing that they can do in this game, in my opinion, as well, is the mush rush stuff. Like, I think that's the worst thing that you can do.
You got to get pressure with 3 or 4.
You got to try to come after him a little bit. And I'm not talking about like zero blitzes and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to say you should blitz him, and that's a mistake. But you need to try to come after him a little bit with the front. Like, let Judon and Uche do their thing. Don't try to get those guys to just set the edge of the defense and keep them in the pocket. So the response to that is, all right, well, how do you contain Jalen Hurts' legs? They're going to have to use a spy.
Yeah,
and
exactly. That's it. You want to force him out of the pocket, but then it's basically cat and mouse. You need Judon and Uche to force him out of the pocket, but then you need a guy like Marte Mop, or like Kyle Duggar, who's kind of there waiting when he turns that corner, that he doesn't have a lane to suddenly run for 20 yards.
Yeah, exactly. And I that's where I think in this game, that's Marty Mapu's role.
Right.
And it's a situational role to me. It's when they get him into the longer down and distances where they're expecting drop back pass, that's when he's going to be on the field. So I don't think that Marty Mapu is going to play necessarily 65, 70 snaps on Sunday, but he might play 20, and they might be 20 really important.
Really high impact snaps, yeah.
And I think the biggest thing with that too, with the spy element, and the Patriots usually do a pretty good job about this, but you want to force him a certain direction. You don't want to give him free reign. Or, like, you don't want him to be able to escape anywhere he wants to go. But if you can close the arm side of the pocket, so to his right, and force him left or force him through the middle, it gives a guy like Mapu a leg up of, I know where he's going to escape. If he's going to run this way. What you don't want is him having to scan from tackle to tackle, being like, where is he? Then you play that cat and mouse game, because Hurts will love that. What you want to do is try to funnel him in a certain direction so that Marty Mapu, or I think Mac Wilson, if they don't think Marty Mapu is ready for it, I think it might be Mac Wilson. Those guys know, okay, I can be a step ahead because this is where we're going. So I feel like all these elements should be there for the Patriots to execute at a pretty high level. I would like to see a lot of charging the mesh as well, which is basically different ways to make that mesh point where he holds it for the read option. You want to accelerate the decision making there. You don't want him to just be able to sit there for 2.5 seconds and read it out and play the game, the chess match. Make him make a quick decision. Crash down, send a linebacker from the second level, but make it happen quickly And that way he's making a split-second decision versus being able to string out the play and hold the football. So I said we weren't going to get into the scheme minutia, but that was it.
That's what we do. What else would we do?
I said I was going to set the table first, but we didn't set the table.
We don't need to do pleasantries.
Okay, the second thing I wanted to talk about was something that I actually mentioned and I just remembered, so I'm glad I remembered. At the end of the show last week, I said that I think this Eagles defense can be had as well. And I know I'm hyping this up like the Patriots have this great chance in this game. You were right that this is all easier said than done, right?
Yes.
Like, so I'm not sitting here.
It's the theme of the week.
Not sitting here saying that the Patriots have all these advantages and all these types of things. This is the epitome of easier said than done.
Yeah.
I, for the most part, am not a fan of the Fangio defense. I don't like it. I think that for two reasons. One, I really feel like the Fangio defense is basically just saying we have really good players on defense and we're just going to rush 4 and sit in zone and make you beat us, right? Like, cool, like, sick. They do a lot of disguising up top. I'll give them that. You know, it's too high out of the base of their defense and then it becomes 1 high, becomes 6, like, you know, quarter, half. Like, they do that type of stuff and that can be difficult, especially for teams that run a lot of route conversions and options. Because is it 6? Is it 4? Is it 3? Right? Like, you have to decipher all of that post snap. But this Eagles defense, to me, they're going to sit in zone. They played zone 71% of the time last year. They hired the associate head coach of the Seahawks to be the defensive coordinator this year. It's going to be a zone team. They're going to play a ton of zone. They have some new faces in the safety room and in the linebacker room that are going to play big roles. The reason why I mainly don't like the Fangio defense as much as maybe other people do, one, they don't really scheme up the pass rush a whole lot. Like, you just kind of know the 4 guys that are coming, and that's sort of the way that it plays out most of the time. They do run some, like, creeper pressure where they'll, like, send a linebacker and drop a guy off the line of scrimmage. But for the most part, you aren't getting a whole lot of exotics when it comes to blitz package, right? Like, it's not like a Brian Flores blitz package or something like that. The other reason, this is going to shock you. This is going to surprise you. What's the last Fangio defense? And I can break, you know, Rams run Fangio, Chargers run Fangio, the Broncos, of course, when he was their head coach, ran Fangio, and you know, this Eagles team runs Fangio. There's not a whole lot of teams that run the Fangio system that stop the run. They just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, they play out of these 2 high shells. They hope that the front 4 can slow up the run. The whole point of the Fangio front mechanics is that they want to slow down the ball carrier in the run game long enough for the defensive backs to rally to the football and make stops on the ball. But they'll give you the first 4 yards. Like, that's going to be there all game long. This Eagles defense, as good as it was last year, was 21st in DVOA against the run. They were not a great run defense. And we've seen what's happened in, I would say, most importantly, in Charger land, right? The Chargers can't stop the run to save their lives out of the 2 high shells because they don't have the defensive linemen.
Because they don't care.
The Eagles have the defensive linemen. But you can run on this team. You might not register explosive runs, right? That's how they get you. Is they're allowing you those first 4 or 5 yards, but they're not going to give up a lot of 35-yard runs. They're going to give up the shorter runs, but they're not going to give up the explosives. I would run the ball. Not for the traditional reasons of like, oh, we got to kill the clock and keep Jalen Hurts on the sideline.
But
like,
that is part of it.
Maybe that's a secondary thing, but I'm more concerned about putting up points than I am of keeping Jalen Hurts on the sideline. But the most part, I would run on them because I think that eventually they will adjust and they will try to spin the dial to get that extra hat in the box, and then you will get some single high structures that Mac can attack. So I want them to run the football offensively. I think you can run the ball against this front, even though it's great. And we already know that this entire offense, and this is sort of, you know, the big picture with the Fangio thing that I was discussing, we already know that this offense is going to try to hit a lot of short passes. Like, I don't think that this offense, even if they weren't shorthanded on the offensive line and facing the best pass rush in the league in week 1, I still don't think Mac Jones is holding the ball a whole lot in this offense anyways. Like, I don't think that's the way that the whole thing is designed. So I like their ability to get the ball out of Mac's hands in this game. I think the biggest thing for them, if you're the Patriots offense, that's going to hold them back is what we've talked about all summer long with the offensive line against this front, and that's the easier said than done piece, right? Like, can you actually block it is a whole different question. But I think schematically, from a fundamental standpoint, this defense has more holes in it than people maybe think because of where they ranked last year against the pass. I think they were number 1 pass defense in the league. They led the league in sacks. But I think at the end of the day, I don't like zone teams. I don't think it's too I don't think it's that.
Grow up, play man.
Yeah, kind of. I just don't think it's that sophisticated. If you have the Legion of Boom, then by all means, sit and cover 3 all game long. But these teams that play all this zone, like these Fangio teams do, their whole identity is to keep the top on the defense and limit explosive plays. Fine. So Mac Jones won't be throwing bombs this week. I don't understand why, if you're the Patriots offense, that would be a problem for you, right?
Right.
I don't think that's a deterrent for you. You don't want to hold the ball anyway because you have God only knows who at right tackle trying to block Hassan Reddick. So you don't want to hold the ball anyways. And you want to be a death by 1,000 paper cuts offense. So have at it. If they played too high, cover 4, cover 6, things like that, run the ball and take your slants, right? And that's where I think that this defense can be had. So that's both sides of the ball for you. I don't know how you feel about the Eagles defense. And
it's kind of the same. Just to put some numbers behind what you said, everybody thinks of the Eagles as this elite pass rush, and I'm not saying they're not, but their blitz rate last year was 22.1%. It's 18th in the league, so they were blitzing less than average. It's not like the Jets who don't blitz, right. But it's significantly less than average. And if we do some quick math on the air, Evan, and this is the kind of math I believe is applicable, if you're not blitzing, how many players are you rushing?
4.
And how many players will the Patriots have to block those rushers? 5. At least.
Yeah, there you go.
So
you have an extra guy.
You have an extra guy. Now,
yes,
this is where the easier said than done thing comes in. You talk about this a lot. It's kind of a saying with offensive line people, right? You can cover up one spot and be okay. It's when you have to cover up multiple spots. And that, to me, is what the question is for the Patriots offense in this game. They're probably going to have to cover up right tackle. I think we feel that. Even if Calvin Anderson, we don't know what Calvin Anderson is. I don't want to throw him under the bus right away and say, he needs to be compensated for it. But he really hasn't played. He was on NFI all summer. What kind of shape is he in? He hasn't been with this group. So if he's the guy you're covering up, fine. What does that mean for Cole Strange? Because last year there were 3 different spots over the course of the season they had to cover up. At times it was left guard. At times it was center. At times it was right tackle.
Yeah.
And there were times where it was only one, and that's when the offensive line looked... They were 11th last year in pressure rate allowed.
Yeah.
So they weren't as bad as it... Well, maybe they were as bad as it seemed, but that's kind of a league thing. They weren't that much below the norm. Where it got ugly was right when David Andrews went out. And now you have to help at center, but you were also helping at left guard, and now you're putting your left guard on an island, and as we saw, he struggled with that.
Yeah.
Cole Strange struggled with that. Or when it became a mess at right tackle, and now you're shading coverage that way. Can Cole Strange...
He's a big part of this.
Can Cole Strange hold... And I'm not saying he can or he can't. We don't know. He didn't practice all summer. We have no idea what his year 2 jump is.
He's going to have Jalen Carter lined up over him. He's going to have Fletcher Cox lined up over him. These are big boys coming after him.
He needs to win those one-on-one, essentially. For the Patriots offense to really be able to move the ball, Cole Strange is going to have to win one-on-one against Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox.
Yeah.
You add to it some of what you said. They can build in some mechanics that naturally slow down the rush, don't let guys pin their ears back, RPO, play action, screens, things like that are a big part of Bill O'Brien's offense naturally.
Right.
So that should help. And then there's also that element of, all right, so it's, 4 versus 5?
Yeah.
How often do you want to go 4 versus 6? And you bring in Pharaoh Brown, or you leave a running back into block, or you even go, Tyrone Wheatley, Vidarian Lowe, tackle eligible.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to me. Can the Patriots 5 be better than the Eagles 4? Is that one player advantage enough to make a difference? Because the Eagles aren't going to blitz a lot. They're not. And honestly, this is a game where, to me, they'll probably blitz less. That's an average for 17 games, so 22.1%. I would think in a matchup like this, and if there is going to be a change, they've talked about they don't want to make a big change with the defensive coordinator. If there is going to be a change, I would think you blitz less coming from that Seattle system. So you should have that 5-on-4 a significant amount of the time on Sunday. You just need to win 5-on-4. Goes back to that concept. It's easier said. I can sit here and say, 5 guys should be able to block 4 guys. Well, when those four guys are the Eagles' defensive front, it's a little different.
Yeah, well, I think you make a great point about Desai and what he's going to bring over here. So Seattle, I believe, was the least blitzing team in the NFL last year.
Second least. The Jets were at 14.9%. The Seahawks are at 15.2%. PFR.
Yeah, so next
I know
gen
their
is a little
numbers
bit
are a little different than I'm a loyal PFR guy.
Yeah, so that's fine. So, Seattle doesn't blitz a lot,
and they're both significantly lower in
areas. But what's astounding about how many sacks the Eagles piled up last year is that they were a middle-of-the-road blitz team.
Yeah.
They were dead last in the league in stunts, right? Like tackle end stunts or pick plays and things like that. Dead last. And they were also near the bottom of the league in simulated or creeper pressure. So they just rush four. Like that's just what they did. They just had four coming at you every single game, and they accumulated 70 sacks by just rushing four guys right at where you thought that they were going to be, and they still were able to get to the quarterback 70 times, which is incredible. That's incredible in itself. But this is one thing that I think gets a little bit flies under the radar because we're not local in Philadelphia. This is one of those things that like we would talk about the Patriots because we know the Patriots so well, but when we start talking about the other 32, especially teams in the NFC, it might get lost in the weeds. Eagles fans hated Jonathan Gannon. They hated
I kind of get that.
Jonathan Gannon. Not because of like the hard knock style stuff that we've seen from the Cardinals release a little bit of. They hated Jonathan Gannon because of how vanilla he was in the pass rush. They never blitzed. They never ran any simulated pressure. They never ran any sort of exotic pressure looks up front, ever. And Eagles fans, it drove them nuts. They thought it was a deterrent to their team that they weren't doing this. Now, zone teams don't blitz a lot because they want to keep the 7 guys in coverage, right? Because you're covering grass everywhere. And if you start taking...
It's space, not bodies.
It's distribution, yeah. If you start taking guys out of coverage, then you're trying to cover space with 6 guys instead of 7, and you guys get the idea. The one thing that the Seattle did a little bit more than Philadelphia did, and I think Desai will probably bring with him to Philadelphia, are creeper pressures, which is when you rush somebody from the back 7, so a linebacker or a safety or somebody from the back 7 level, but you drop a player off from the line of scrimmage. So we see the Patriots do this all the time with Matthew Judon last year at times, like that Raider game where Juwan Bentley is going to blitz up the middle and Judon's going to drop off the edge and replace him in the coverage. So you still keep your numbers in both the rush and the coverage the same, but the pressure is coming from a different direction than what you're expecting pre-snap. So I think that there's going to be some of that. All of that is post-snap diagnosis, right? You have a lot of the time, like they'll say, all right, the left guard and the left tackle, you have 2 of the 3 guys over here. If 2 guys come, then you got to block both of them.
Right.
If 3 guys come, the 3rd guy's on the quarterback. Or sometimes it's 3 over 4, and we're going to have the center open to that direction, and then you guys have 3. If 4th guy comes, then Mac is hot. Mac's got to get the ball out at that point. So those are the types of things that they will have to work through, I think, a little bit more than what the Eagles did last year. But in general, it's what Bill said. Their structure is their structure. They're not changing it.
There's no, they'll disguise this, and we have to be ready if they show this look. It could be 3 or 4 things,
Yeah.
And this is where, again, it goes back to, we've talked about this a lot. What is Bill O'Brien's offense predicated on? Get to the line, identify what you're seeing, check to the play that matches the identification, and go. And if you do that correctly, odds are you're going to have a successful play. It's not going to be a touchdown every time, but you'll move the ball. The Eagles aren't disguising it. They're just, again, it's that thing, especially on the defensive front. With 4 on 5, and they got 70 sacks because they are just better.
Yeah.
It's not scheme. It's not disguise. It's not you got to be better than them. Period.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
They do disguise a little bit on the back end, but it's safety rotation, right? Like they always start in a 2-high shell. Every Fangio defense starts in that 2-high shell. They played most of their coverage snaps last year in cover 3, so they'll start 2 high and then they'll rotate the buzz defender into the box to play the crossers coming from the passing strength, and then they'll have the 1-high shell, but for the most part, you're talking about just like post-snap safety rotations. You're not talking about the Patriots. They are diabolical defensively with their disguising. So they'll drop. I think what a great example is one of my favorite examples was Kyle Duggar's pick 6 against Miami last year. They showed cover 0 pre-snap. It was Tampa 2 after the snap, right? They rotated the entire. Kyle Duggar rotated from the line of scrimmage into the deep Tampa 2 hole and was formed a cover 2 defense from what looked like 0. The Eagles don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're not going to see anything like that.
They rotate their safeties, but they don't disguise on that kind of level. But at the end of the day, as we keep saying, easier said than done because the Eagles have a lot of dogs.
Just go block Fletcher Cox one-on-one. Easier said than done.
When I say a lot of dogs, yes, they have a lot of Georgia Bulldogs, but they also have a lot of dogs. Like they just also have a lot of really good players, and that can be problematic. All right, let's open up the phone lines so we can discuss this matchup with you guys. There's a couple more scheme things or game plan things that we want to get into as well, some matchups and things like that. But let's see what the people have to say, Alex. Let's start with Sean in Vancouver. Sean, thanks for staying on hold. What's up?
Hey, Evan, now that you're Patriots offensive coordinator, I have some plays that I want to run by you. When the Patriots are first and goal, I'd like them to bring in a jumbo package, try and run up the middle. If it doesn't work, have the same personnel and go play action pass, roll option right. What do you think?
Okay, well, I appreciate the call, and yeah, if you want to send plays into me, because I guess that's a thing, and thanks, Sean, for the call, evanl@craftsE.com. There you go. Send them in. Send me in the drawings, right? Go draw them up and show me what you got. You mentioned 6 offensive linemen at one point. I actually really like that in this game for a couple of reasons. One reason is, as I mentioned, they play out of that too high shell. They can be run on. I don't think that they're going to change what they do just because you bring a 6th offensive lineman in the game. So I think you could really open up in this game, first drive, 6 offensive linemen, and run it pretty effectively. I think the other thing is that when you go 6 offensive line, you think about it as short yardage or a game plan wrinkle, right? Like those are the 2 different things that you think of. They can dial up play action off of that, and if Philly is going to play zone, then they only need 3 routes, right? Like they don't need to put 5 guys in the route if Philly's playing zone because you can just overload it to one side of the field. So if you're playing cover 3 and you have the flat defender and you have the cover 3, the deep third, if you run 3 receivers into that zone, it's 3 on 2.
It goes back to that thing because it's like you're right. With man, you got to match the concepts because you're trying to manipulate defenders, manipulate space. You're not doing that against zone because the defenders are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the thing where you kind of know where they're going to cover, where they're going to not. You know where you're going to be able to run guys to and get them open. But you got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Kansas City used a lot of flood concepts. So what I really liked about Kansas City's plan in the Super Bowl is that they used a lot of motion to cover the flat, right? So they would motion like Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore across the formation, and he would run a flat route, and that would hold the flat defender. Then the other side of the formation, that would run a vertical, and then they would just run like a flag pattern and fill it in with Travis Kelce, and they're just overloading the zone on that side of the field, and then it's just a simple high-low read for Patrick Mahomes. If the defender backs down off the flat and covers Kelce on the flag route, then you just throw the flat, and you just take the yards underneath the defense.
And if they give that to you, you take it all day, and then when you get down in the red zone, you run the football.
That's a profit. So that's a good point. 6 offensive line, the goal line 6 offensive line. I like that as well, especially because they're not going to have a fullback. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
So I like them going 6 offensive line short yardage. One nitpick on Sean's call: don't love rolling the pocket on the goal line. Don't like it because it shrinks the space that you have to work with.
I do think you need to roll. You need to roll a little bit in this game. You need to reset the pocket because, again, don't do it a lot. And I'm not saying like design bootlegs for Mac Jones, but when you move the pocket every once in a while, it's another one of those things that upsets the timing of the pass rush. But you can do that between the 20s.
I just don't love shrinking the field because in the red zone, the field is already so condensed.
Yeah.
So then when you start shrinking it, now all of a sudden you're really only dealing with like a 4x4 box in the corner of the
I'm
end
with
zone.
you. That's my philosophy. Unless you have a quarterback that's a threat to run it in and you can just turn the rollout into a natural bootleg and score. Like you don't need to be rolling out in the red zone. But again, I do hope they do some rollouts at some point, 2 or 3, couple, but just give them one early so that the guys on that side of the line, it gives the defensive end something to think about. Hey, I can't get upfield too quick because if they roll it out behind me, I'm out of the play.
See, I like on the goal line, they ran a lot of this in training camp, which I really liked. They have, it's 2x2, right? So they have 2 receivers over here and 2 receivers to his right, and they're usually in some sort of stack. And it's 2 different route concepts of what they're running, and then he just kind of looks at the structure of the defense and then decides which side of the field to read.
Which coverage, based on the coverage, am I going with concept A or concept B? Am I going left or right?
All right, John's in Louisiana. What's up, John?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Evan, offensive coordinator, huh, my guy?
Maybe. We'll see.
But I want to go into the defensive team that you were talking about. A lot of people aren't talking about that. They lost Javon Hargrave. Like, that's not going to be an easy replacement. You can go get a rookie, but, I mean, like, Javon Hargrave, and you're losing a guy who led the league in interceptions and Chauncey Gardner. I mean, I think we'd be able to pass on him, too.
Oh, I think we lost him there.
I think that was the call. I'll say that they
thanks
lost
for the call,
they
John.
lost Hargrave, who did have 11 sacks last year.
Yeah.
They have two other guys returning at 11. Hassan Reddick at 16. They also had a Jalen Carter, who a lot of people thought was the most talented player in the draft.
Yeah, Jalen Carter worries me in this game.
They'll be fine without Javon Hargrave. You want to?
He's a good player, but
Gardner Johnson, maybe a little bit of a tougher replacement, but we kind of talked about this. They're not. If you can get it blocked, you're gonna get guys open.
yeah.
You just got to get it blocked.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Gardner Johnson is an interesting replacement. So they signed Terrell Edmonds from the Steelers.
Yeah.
Who's kind of like a Kyle Duggar, like safety nickel type of player. And then they also have Avonte Maddox, who can be more of like a natural slot corner. And so those are their two guys to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's a really underrated player. He can play safety and he can play nickel, and he's physical. So he can hold up against the run as well, playing closer to the line of scrimmage. That's a really key role in the Fangio defense because you're playing out of those lighter boxes and you're playing out of lighter personnel. You need to have a nickel that's willing to stick his hat in there in the run game. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was able to do that. So Terrell Edmonds is a bigger, thicker guy. Like I said, he's kind of like a Kyle Duggar type.
Right.
So I think he should be able to do that as well. But then it has a trickle-down effect on their safety group. Blankenship, right, is their other safety. Yeah. He's
Not the kicker.
He's a guy that didn't play a ton last year. He's kind of like a rookie that they liked last year and had a promising first season, but they're putting a lot more on his plate this year than what he had last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that squares away. Patty is in Agawam. Patty, what's going on?
What's going on, Jen?
Hey.
I don't know. I said this on Rook's show yesterday, Evan. You had already left, but I just have a good feeling about this week. Not good enough that I think that they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. And I'm going to give you two guys that I think might have some surprising contributions. One of them is Mike Gesicki. I think, Evan, I think it was you who said on PU earlier this week that, probably the biggest weakness of this Philadelphia defense is the middle of the field, their safeties. So I wouldn't be surprised, Bill O'Brien's not a moron. He's hate to take pot shots, but he's no Matt Patricia when it comes to offense, So I think he'll know how to exploit that. And the other guy who I think might have a sneaky good game is Kayshon Boutte. I think especially if Devontae Parker is limited and if he ends up inactive, I think one of those rookies you're going to see have a big game, and I don't think it's going to be Pop, because I think I think Boutte's more plays more of that X role. Not that he's in the mold of an X receiver, but I think he's more in line to replace Devontae Parker than Pop is. And that's all I got, guys. Let's freaking go.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Patty. I love that. Love that ending there. So quickly, let's start with Gesicki and the tight ends. I did want to talk about this. I definitely think the middle of the field can be had against this Eagles pass defense. Neither of the Patriots tight ends are Travis Kelce. We know that. Kelce had a good Super Bowl against them, and even though no one's Travis Kelce and no one's going to do it at as high of a level as Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki aren't slouches. So we're not talking about bad tight ends. So they might, if Kelsey's at a 10, like they might be executing it at a 7, but a 7's still pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think that can be an advantage for them. I like the Gesicki shout because I think if you're going to run some of these zone beaters, you do want somebody that is a little bit faster, that can get into the voids a little bit quicker, so they don't close. They don't react to it and close it. So I think that Gesicki could have a pretty big role in in this game. Kelsey ran the double move on the touchdown in the Super Bowl. I don't know if any of the Patriots tight ends are going to run a double move.
I don't know if the offensive line gives them enough time to run double moves.
Yeah, that's fair too. I don't know if anybody's going to run double moves as well as the Chiefs and Travis Kelsey. But Kelsey ran a lot of like post corners and different types of things like that, crossing routes, and then the post corner off of it to play with their zones. And I do think that Gesicki and Henry can do that as well. Again, not at a Travis Kelsey level, but at a lesser extent that's still productive.
Yeah, it's still at a high level. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. I buried the offensive line 40 minutes into the show.
I did a whole thing on them. What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't want to I feel like we've ragged on the offensive line enough. All right. So here's my thing with the offensive line. I expect the offensive line to be about as fully healthy as you can imagine at this point. I think that they are going to walk on the field on the first offensive play of the game with from left to right, Trent Brown, Cole Strange, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, and
Calvin Anderson. If it's not Calvin Anderson, it's a guy who's played at most 33 NFL snaps.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to elevate James Ferentz to play right tackle.
So I think it will be Calvin Anderson as well. Here's the catch. Obviously, Calvin Anderson against Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat is a mismatch in itself. Like that's one catch to this. The other catch is that I don't think all those guys are going to go wire to wire on Sunday. And it's supposed to be hot. It's supposed to be humid on Sunday as well.
I think it's supposed to rain, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe in the morning. I think. I'm worried about like the rain happening and then the humidity hitting. Right, like after the rain.
I'm seeing rain like all day.
Okay,
but still very humid.
So
it's gonna be like they're opening in Miami again.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot and it's gonna be humid. And my guess is that they're not gonna have all five guys go wire to wire.
And on top of that, they usually don't in week one. It's the whole extension of the preseason game. They keep guys, they like to rotate and get different looks early on.
So last year they played 7 linemen in week 1 in Miami. I believe Brown, Andrews, Onwenu played wire to wire. So those 3 guys played the whole game. Strange and the right tackle, who was Isaiah Wynn at the time. Isaiah Wynn gave way a little bit to Yadni Kajust. And then I think Strange, maybe it was Ferentz.
I think it was Ferentz.
Yeah, that got in for Strange. So I think that you're going to see.
Did Isaiah Wynn kick inside?
No, I think it was.
Okay,
Ferentz.
it would have been fair because they didn't play any. They only played 4 interior linemen last year. It was Onwenu, Andrews, Strange, and Ferentz. That was it. No other interior linemen played.
So they're going to play a little bit. I think they're going to play 7 or 8 guys. I think in this game, and it might be different. And what I mean by that is, I think Mafi is going to be the backup guard. He might swing both ways though. No pun intended.
Okay.
Or any
it's not
stuff intended.
Pun.
Yeah, it's not pun. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
He might play left and right. So Cole Strange needs a blow. He goes in at left. Onwenu needs a blow. He goes in at right.
What about Onwenu goes to right tackle?
I don't think so. Not yet. Not yet. I think that's a break glass situation with Onwenu at right tackle.
I think against this Eagles front, you could see that.
It's possible. But how I get to 8 is I think Mafi's going to play a little bit at guard for Strange and Onwenu. I think someone else is going to play right tackle. I don't know who yet, but I think it's either...
I'm going to guess Vidarian Lowe.
Vidarian Lowe maybe gets in there at right tackle. I think Tyrone Wheatley gets in as the 6th offensive
tackle
lineman.
Eligible, yep.
So I think that's how you get to 8. But don't expect... Alex, you're 100% right that they usually don't go the distance week 1 anyways.
Yeah.
Especially with a banged-up group like this that hasn't practiced a whole lot this summer, I would expect a pretty significant rotation on the offensive line. I think you're going to see a lot of bodies up there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But do you feel... How do you... Like, I guess where's your panic meter with the offensive line at this point? Because I've hit the panic button
for
on
the
this show
season?
quite a few times. Both. Give me both.
I mean, this... I said that whole thing before, right? About 5 players versus 4 players. And can Cole Strange basically hold up 1-on-1 against some of those guys? I don't feel great about that.
Yeah.
I think Trent Brown, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, you know what you're going to get from those 3 guys.
Yeah.
And those 3 guys should be pretty good. Everybody else, the other 2 spots, the backups that are going to rotate in, Cole Strange, you kind of have an idea. Everybody else is a total unknown to me because we literally didn't see any of them.
Yeah.
Calvin Anderson was not. Even Cole Strange, he took part in 30 minutes of a padded practice, didn't get into team drills in a padded practice. So We really don't know what his year 2 jump looks like. Calvin Anderson was on NFI till practice is closed to the media, so we have no idea what he looks like. Vidarian Lowe and Tyrone Wheatley just got here. You have rookies. It's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
You have 2 unknowns in the starting lineup, and then pretty much, unless they elevate Ferentz, which I don't think they're going to do, not this week, it's all guys that really haven't played.
Yeah, I feel better about the offensive line than I did 10 days ago. And
I think. All right, sorry. Let me. So you said for the game in the season.
Yeah,
so that was for the game. For the season. So last year, I'll do PFF this time, not PFR, because I have the PFF number in my head. I go back and forth. It's whichever one better suits my argument. Right? It's the sports hub.
At least he's honest about it, Marine.
They were 11th in the league last year in pressure rate allowed.
Yeah.
According to PFF. Which
yes.
You said, well, it's pretty good.
It's all right.
Well, but there's an offensive line shortage in the league. We've talked about this.
So I don't. So, this is why I don't like pressure rate. Not to go into the whole thing about it, but there's screens. There's play action.
But here's my point. They weren't the worst offensive line in the league.
No, they weren't.
I don't see whether you think they were the 11th best. I think that's high, but
yeah.
I would say they were in the top 20.
Okay, maybe 20.
Maybe 20, but they weren't atrocious compared to.
No, they weren't a complete.
But here's my point.
Yeah.
They may not be better. I don't see how they get, pending injury, I don't see how they get worse, because 4 of your 5 starters are the same. In that 5th spot, right tackle, it's the same thing. It's just different names. You're still doing a rotation at right tackle. Last year it was Isaiah Wynn, Yodney Kajust, Connor McDermott. Who am I missing? Yodney.
Yeah.
All 4 of those guys. Well, Connor McDermott's still here, but he's on IR. You're just replacing those guys with Calvin Anderson, Vidarian Lowe, Tyrone Wheatley, and City So.
Yeah.
It's the same. So it's the same thing. Yeah. So I don't see how they get much worse. I don't think they're going to be better, but I also don't think they're going to be worse. I think it's going to be the same thing. And when they were healthy last year, they made it work. It wasn't great, but they made it work. If they can stay healthy, I think long-term they have the ability to make it work, but there are some things they're going to need to do to sort out, to build chemistry before they get to that point, and having to face this defensive line in week 1, it doesn't exactly make that easy.
Yeah, so I don't think that they're worse. I agree with you. I think Cole Strange in year 2 will be better. I think Mike Onwenu and David Andrews are still good, and Trent's Trent. Trent's not an elite left tackle. I don't even know if he's a Pro Bowl left tackle at this point. Maybe he was in 2018. I think that was really the only time he's touched that. But he's typically a serviceable left tackle. This is not the show for it, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about this next offseason. They are looking for a left tackle next offseason. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I know we're talking.
We've said that for the last 2 or 3 years.
I know we have, and I know we're talking a lot about right tackle. Right tackle is a lower floor position for them right now. But long term, thanks for your service, Trent Brown, but it's time to move on and find something more stable.
If Mac Jones establishes himself as the guy, I think outside of Kyle Duggar, I think they're pretty good in terms of pending free agents.
Yeah.
They can afford to lose Josh Uche. It wouldn't be great, but same with Mike Onwenu, just the way they've drafted the last couple of years. If Mac Jones establishes himself as the guy, you got to get him a blindside protector and a number 1 target.
Yeah,
that's 1 and 2.
Keep saying that and it doesn't happen.
Right, and you can go clip me saying that probably in 2021.
Yeah, all right.
But
regardless, I like their long-term outlook along the offensive line. And I know that sounds a little bit contradictory to some of the things I've said about the group in the past, but my whole thing was twofold. One, I wanted to see the projected starting 5 actually healthy and out there and playing together before I panicked, right? We haven't seen...
That's fair.
Forget about right tackle for a second, but we haven't seen Brown, Strange, Andrews, Onwenu. We haven't seen that group.
We haven't seen... I mean, they didn't have both starting guards for I don't think there was one open padded practice where they had both starting guards.
No,
I know there wasn't.
No, because Mike Onwenu was on PUP the whole time.
No, I'm saying every padded practice we saw this summer.
Yeah.
They had backups at both guard spots.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Outside of that, the 10 minutes before Cole Strange got hurt in the first one, which was basically the first competitive rep he took, he got hurt.
Yeah.
We saw him stretch.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell you a lot about year 2.
So that's why that's my holding out hope about the group, right? Is that, okay, we really haven't seen the group. We're panicking.
You know what this is? It's the same logic I used for my 2 kicker take.
Oh my God.
Until you have a reason to disbelieve it, you can't disbelieve it.
Fine, but we were panicking in the preseason, myself included, about City and these guys that aren't really big time factors.
But I
this
think,
group.
I maybe I was alone in this.
Yeah.
My panic in that was we're not that far away from these guys playing.
That's fair. That's fair. We don't have to worry about that hopefully this week, but we're not that far away long term. The other reason why I'm not as concerned about their long term outlook is I think that Bill O'Brien and the jury for me is still out on Adrian Clem. I feel the same way that I feel in some respects about the quarterback as I do about Adrian Clem. I think Mac Jones can play.
Okay.
I think Adrian Clem can coach the offensive line, but can I sit here and know definitively for a fact that Adrian Clem is a good offensive line coach and Mac Jones is a franchise quarterback? No, I can't say that right this very second.
Right.
But I think Adrian Clem will have that group ready to go and will be okay. Offensive line, and this is a Scarnecchia-ism that I stole from him, so this is not like some words of wisdom from me.
Yeah.
Scarnecchia always talks about how that's the one group on the field where it's all about all 5 guys being on a string. You can punch above your weight if you have all 5 guys on a string on the offensive line.
On the same page.
Yeah. If you're picking up blitzes together and you're sliding together and you're comboing or double teaming blocks together, you can do it with lesser talent.
This is the seeing it through the same eyes concept.
Yes. You can do it with lesser talent. You can. So if right tackle is an issue, but Calvin Anderson and Mike Onwenu and David Andrews on the right side of things, they got it buttoned up, then it will be a lot cleaner than just Calvin Anderson being an anchor to the whole group.
Right.
So that's the difference between this year and last year to me, is they have pre-snap ability now to change protections and get the protections in the right order. And that's going to be mostly 90% of that's going to be on the quarterback and the other 10% will be on Andrews. And they have a lot better fundamental understanding of just the fundamentals, the basic principles of the offense. And that, I think, will hopefully make this group better than the sum of its parts, right? Like it
doesn't feel like that's what their plan was.
Yes.
We were waiting for them to invest in a tackle, and instead they invested in the coach to elevate the players they had.
Yeah, it's such a big difference when it comes to protection calls. Most of the Patriots protection calls that aren't play action are 70s protections, they call them. And they have different, they'll call different numbers in the 70s, and that's a different type of protection. And that ability to come to the line of scrimmage, David Andrews will call out the front, right? He'll say 4 down, 3 down, something like that. And then to be able to adapt pre-snap to what exactly the defense is showing you to get it blocked properly. They weren't doing stuff like that last year. They were coming to the line of scrimmage and snapping the ball, and whatever happened, right? Like that was the approach, unfortunately, last year. This is going to be a little bit different, and I think that's going to help them a lot. So I'm not concerned about like the long-term outlook. With that being said, this game on Sunday does have the potential to look kind of rough.
Yes.
And we have to grow with the growing pains. It's going to be, it could be tough. This is the best pass rush in the NFL by a country mile.
I looked this up earlier. Not only are they the best pass rush in the NFL, it's 70 sacks last year. It's tied for 3rd most by a team in NFL history.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times a team has had more than 60 sacks in a season since 2000?
No.
3. It's the 2000 Saints, which is kind of random.
Yeah, that's very random.
The 2006 Chargers, that's like the Shane Merriman. Those teams were filthy.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles last year. There's a bunch of teams in there in the 80s and 90s that had like 60-something sacks. But since 2000, only 2 teams, and neither of those teams reached the 70s. It's 60 and 66 for the Saints and Chargers.
Yeah.
Eagles got to 70. This isn't just the best pass rush in the league. This is the best pass rush the NFL's seen in probably 2 decades.
Yeah.
Definitely in Bill. Let's put it this way. This is the best pass rush Bill Belichick has ever faced as head coach of the Patriots.
Very dramatic.
Well, no, because I remember he used to coach I don't know if he ever faced the Giants when he was the head coach of the Browns, but if he faced Lawrence Taylor, that's different.
Well, don't put anybody in Lawrence Taylor's category.
That's why I caught myself. This is the best pass rush, and it's that Bill Belichick has ever faced as the head coach of the Patriots.
All right, I like that. It's a very good rush. as much as I picked on them for being vanilla in their pass rush, they can be because
But that's
of
the thing,
personnel
right?
that they have.
The Patriots, I mean, they did it more they did it at times on defense. The 2014 defense was like this, but they did this on offense. When you had Brady, Moss, Welker, those teams, or even like the Edelman Gronk teams.
Yeah.
You pretty much knew what they were going to do. It wasn't really a secret. The drive against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Everybody knew what those third down play calls were. Everybody knew. Yeah, they're either going up the seam to Gronk or they're hitting Edelman on the end.
Yeah.
We knew it. They knew it. The Chiefs knew it. The fans knew it. And what did they do? They went up the field doing it. Why? Because they were just better.
Okay, we're going to get to a Brady minute by the end of the show.
No, but just as a comp, yeah, I know. I kind of got off the rest of it. That's sort of what the Eagles' defense is. We know they're going to put four guys' hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to drop back into coverage. They're going to put four guys' hands in the dirt.
Yeah. And
they're not going to run around and twist, and they're going to come right at you. Yeah. We know it. They know it. But can you be better than them? Can you stop them from doing it? Because most people can't.
Okay, so I got some other personnel questions for you because we've talked the scheme through. I like that part of what we've done here.
Yes.
We've covered our bases there. Let's talk about some of the guys that are going to play and some of the combinations we might see elsewhere besides the offensive line.
Okay.
Let's start in the backfield. This is interesting to all the fantasy people out there, so you can.
I thought you were going to say it's interesting to you.
No, please. And we can talk about this. For all the fantasy people out there, Ramondre Stevens, Zeke Elliott, first of all, do you believe Ramondre that he actually has no idea how they're going to rotate them on Sunday?
Live omission.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a half truth. Can we say that?
That's the term I was looking for.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, half truth. Anyways,
he doesn't know who's getting the first snap, but he knows who's going out for what package and whatever.
So how do you see them using Ramondre and Zeke?
I would so some of this is like how far along is Zeke in the playbook?
Yeah.
Let's just assume for a sec Zeke's fully caught up and he's good to go and the full playbook's available. I would love to see them go back to what they did before Ty Montgomery got hurt last year and split it by drive instead of by situation.
So you don't care if who's on the field on a passing play or run play, you just want them to go drive by drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like that better. I think there's less tells. I think the backs they have, it makes the most of their skill sets. You have two well-rounded backs. Like I want Ramondre on the field in both situations. I want Zeke on the field in both situations. So that's now I'm not saying I'd go 1 for 1. I'm probably going like for every 2 Ramondre drives, Zeke or something like that. The other wrinkle in this, and I don't know if you want to get into this later, but I kind of need to bring it up now for this take. If we're going to do who are we thinking for practice squad elevations, Zappy's going to be 1. I can't imagine Matt Corral's ready.
Okay.
So Zappy's 1. I'm looking at Ty Montgomery.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised Ty Montgomery's not on the 53-man roster.
I'm a little bit too. And some of what we talked about earlier in terms of, all right, this quick pass stuff, the screens, where can you beat the Eagles in coverage? Their linebackers are not great coverage linebackers. You're going to have an ability to throw the ball to the running back in this game. Like I said, the other 2 guys can do it. Ramondre Zeke can do it. That 2-minute drill where you really got to get going. Ty Montgomery's still the best receiving back on the roster.
Yeah, I agree.
When he's healthy. So, to me, it's like 2. Here's how I would do it: by drive, 2 Ramondre drives for every Zeke drive.
Okay.
But when you get into the 2-minute, give me Ty Montgomery.
Okay. So I'm similar. I maybe would just break it. Personally, I still feel like Zeke is here to be Damian Harris. Like what they envisioned the split between Ramondre and Damian Harris being before Damian Harris got banged up.
I don't know. You don't think that they're going to take advantage of what he does in pass pro? You don't think that's, especially we just talked about all that on the offensive line. Damian Harris didn't do any of that.
I do to a respect, but maybe not in the same way that other people do where I think he's going to be playing on third down. I think what they're going to do with Zeke in pass pro is we can run play action and then Zeke can blitz scan after we run the fake and pick guys up late and try to keep Matt clean that way. And I also think that if they get certain personnel on the field, it might be a situation where they're in run personnel, but they actually throw out of run personnel, and then Zeke becomes either a blocker or a receiver to that respect. I still feel like third down is going to come down to Ramondre or Ty Montgomery. I just feel like Ramondre is too in tune with the quarterback to take him off the field on third down.
Well, we don't know. We don't know where Zeke's at with Mac.
We don't, but I know that him and Ramondre have a great rapport.
Okay, that's fair.
And I that's where I worry about anybody but Ramondre being on third down, because at the end of the day, if it's 3rd and 3, it's 3rd and 4, and he needs that James White,
Yeah.
I still think that he feels the most comfortable with it being Ramondre. That might not necessarily mean that I think Montgomery is a quicker, better route runner than Ramondre is, but in terms of chemistry and continuity, I think Mac likes throwing the ball to Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't want to see Ramondre Stevenson playing 70% of the snaps again.
I don't think he will.
Really
I
don't
think
want
that
to
the
see
way that they're going to cut into his workload is going to be on 1st and 2nd down. I think
With Zeke, okay.
With Zeke and him will trade off 1st and 2nd down carries, and then Ramondre will play on 3rd. Now, I also agree that I feel like Ty Montgomery will be elevated from the practice squad and play a role in this game.
Yeah.
The one other thing that I thought of, just from a game plan standpoint, everybody always throws tempo out there like it's this cure-all. Like, let's run hurry up and it's going to fix all of our problems and I actually do think that there is some advantage of it in this game simply because the Eagles, they run what they run at a certain personnel packages. So if you have certain groupings on the field for them defensively, you are kind of going to know what defensive structure they're going to be in.
And if you get a look that you can beat, you can force them essentially to stay in that look.
So that's where I think Ty Montgomery's role could play into this game, is if they do want to hit a drive where they hit the NASCAR package, as Josh McDaniels used to call it, and run some hurry up. Ty Montgomery, he can play flexed out and he can play out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And it gives them a kind of a Swiss Army knife. Like, what position is he? Is he a running back? Is he a receiver?
I don't know if this is the game to do it just because of the Eagles front and what it is, but I'm not opposed to some 2 running back sets this year. Yeah. As long as I don't think you need Ramondre and Zeke
That's
on the
another
field at the
thing
same time, but where you have
Montgomery,
but like he's he's a receiver. He's going to go line up in the slot. He's going to go run a route, but the other team doesn't know that when you're in the huddle. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them do some of that. In this game, I feel like the Eagles they can handle something like that. But when you get to a team like the Jets, I think when you get to a team like the Raiders, if Montgomery's still healthy by then, seeing some of that stuff would make. I know you hate 21.
I do mainly
or
because
20.
The main reason why, and everybody that is listening probably has heard it as pony most of the time. With the 2 running backs, there's 2 things that don't typically statistically bear out the way people think.
Here comes offensive coordinator Evan Lazar.
Hurry up is one.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that you run hurry up and it solves all your problems, right? Like, you just run tempo, no huddle. Oh, don't worry about it. This is going to fix everything. It seldom does.
That's the Kyle Shanahan school of thought.
The other thing that hasn't been statistically productive is pony. Like, even going back to Brady with like Rex Burkhead and James White, they would do it a little bit. Statistically, it doesn't yield results. Like, it's not an efficient package. Is Bill O'Brien different, and can he get more out of it than somebody else could? Like, we'll see. Like, maybe that's possible.
I also think Ty Montgomery is a unique player in this because he's not really a running back.
What I love about Ty Montgomery is that we know O'Brien loves empty.
Yes.
We're going to see some empty. And what they can do is they can be run personnel,
right,
or they could be empty, and they can blur the lines.
That's kind of what I meant.
So if they get them like in nickel and they like the grouping that they have out there to pass the ball, they can go 5 wide empty against their base nickel front. Then they can go under center and run the ball on the next play, right? Like, and they can go back and forth like that, which can be really helpful.
Well, I'm just saying, I think you compound that because Ramondre can line up. I mean, he's not the receiver Ty Montgomery is, but he can line up outside the formation. And if you come out with Ramondre and Ty Montgomery, you could come out. The one I've really talked to, and this is me getting a little ahead of myself and getting a little excited, is 22 with Ty Montgomery and Mike Gesicki. Because do you have 2 tight ends, 2 running backs? Is it really 11 with Mike Gesicki playing wide receiver and Ty Montgomery playing receiver? You can come out, if you have Mike Gesicki and Ty Montgomery in the huddle, you can come out in goal line, you can come out in 5 wide.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping they're going to be able to do, because so much of what I want to talk about the receivers, Dex, and who we think is going to play there. They don't have, we know this, and we don't have to beat a dead horse, but they don't have an A.J. Brown or a Devontae Smith. They don't even have one of those guys, and the Eagles have 2, right? Like, they don't have one of those guys. But what O'Brien's really effective at doing is using personnel and formations to dictate, to find openings and create openings in defenses. And so there's a big advantage, I think, to their 12 personnel package, quote unquote, with Hunter Henry and Gesicki and Ramondre, that can be empty or that can be under center traditional 12, right? And you just don't know the difference until you see it. And that, I think, can be effective. Talking about the receivers, we know Devontae Parker's dealing with a knee injury. He was on the injury report yesterday with that, so we know officially that it's a knee that's been hurting him. But let's just, for argument's sake, because we don't know. We can't have a crystal ball and know if Devontae Parker is going to be 100%, is going to play, whatever. What do you expect to see the most used receivers to be, I think is the best way to put it.
And then there's that whole thing about Juju's knee too, right?
Yeah. I'm not worried about Juju's knee. I don't know about you.
I'll just say this. It's Kendrick Bourne time. He was their best receiver this summer. He's healthy. You talk about the chemistry with Mac. It's nothing against Juju or Parker, but he's been here the longest. We know him and Mac get along well. Give me Kendrick Bourne.
KB.
In this game. Give me a full dose of Kendrick Bourne.
So if you had to guess, when we get the snap counts on Monday morning, who is 1, 2, 3 out of the receivers?
I think just if I need to see the injury report today, but I do think there's clearly something going on with Parker. They're going to be hesitant. I think Juju's still number one because that's just they paid him and he's the slot guy. But I think he's going to be in the high 90s.
Yeah.
In
terms of percentages.
In terms of percentage, right?
Yeah.
Snap percentage. I think Bourne could end up high 80s, low 90s.
Yeah, me too.
And then Parker probably comes in somewhere around 70, 60, 70.
How much are the rookies?
Demario Douglas, probably a guy that gets a handful of snaps, called 10, 15 snaps, maybe a specific package, like they'll all be in the same formation. Kayshon Boutte, to me, is still somebody's got to get hurt for him to get on the field significantly. He'll play on special teams, and maybe he gets a snap or two here or there, but it's nothing against him as a player. We've talked about this. Demario Douglas gives them something they don't otherwise have in speed. As good as Kayshon Boutte looks like potential-wise, he doesn't give them anything they don't have between Juju and Bourne, and his game's still got to grow a little bit to catch those guys.
Yeah.
So I just don't see where he plays.
I think it's going to be Juju and Bourne will be your clear-cut 1 and 2. Yeah. Mainly because Parker's hurt. I think when Parker gets back in there, it might be Juju, Parker, Bourne.
So I will say this, to the caller's point, with Kayshon Boutte playing, if Parker does get hurt, like he can't play, I do think those snaps go to Kayshon Boutte before Demario Douglas. I think Demario Douglas's role is what it is. It's not going to change. They're not going to, it's, all right, this is your package, this is your route tree, whereas Kayshon Boutte is the guy if you lose one of those top 3. Now, the caller said Kayshon Boutte at the X.
Yeah.
I actually think it's Kendrick Bourne at the X, Kayshon Boutte at the Z.
Okay.
If Devontae Parker can't go. Or maybe they mix and match and maybe they rotate it, but that's how I would do it. But that, to me, is how if Parker's injury is worse than we think, that's how Kayshon Boutte gets on the field.
I agree with you that I think Demario Douglas, they have a very specific role in mind for him. My guess is it's going to be mostly third down and maybe some gadget-style plays out of RPO.
I'll say mostly third down. I love him as a drive starter.
RPO drive starter?
Drive start. Well, it can be RPOs. It can be...
it has to be RPO because I'm running the show now, so...
Oh, RPOs, some of that orbit motion stuff they did with Marcus Jones last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like him as a drive. Call it a gut instinct. I don't really have a full take behind it, but I like him as a drive starter.
I like the take.
Get the ball in his hands right away, and Eagles come out. They think they know what they're looking at. They get in their set, and then all of a sudden, boom! Here's this, and then you have that in the back of your head.
So last thing on the receivers, then I want to talk about the CB matchups as well, and then we have one more call to get to here.
Okay.
So we can do this.
And then Brady.
Oh yeah, and Brady. We can do it. We got 15 minutes to pull this
out. All right,
out.
let's go. Let's do it.
First thing, last receiver take here because I think we're in lockstep on the guys that are on the 53-man roster. This also depends on how they feel about Matt Corral. But if Parker is limited or out, I think...
Are you going to hit me with a Thyrick Pitts take?
No.
Okay.
I think there's a chance that Jalen Reagor is elevated from the practice squad and plays. I think there's a chance.
All right.
I'll tell you why.
Because he's got to play against his former team. Ooh, Adam Schefter.
No. I'm not.
Schefter was all hyped about that.
I'm not going revenge game.
Okay.
What I'm going with is... based off of last year's film, and I know they have a new defensive coordinator and some new faces and yada, 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 motion against the Eagles' defense works. They have trouble with motion.
Which is weird because that's normally something that's tougher for man teams than zone teams.
They have all sorts of kinds of problems with motion, and we know in the Super Bowl they scored wide open touchdowns, and everybody went goo goo gaga over Andy Reid because he discovered return motion, which was Steve Sarkisian's discovery at Alabama. But that's besides the point.
Well, no, that ties in because that's Steve Sarkisian at Alabama with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
If we're going to see Alabama Mac, you're going to see some of that.
So the one thing, other than clearing out coverage, that Jalen Reagor can just run in a straight line really fast and clear out the coverage.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think that he can be effective at on an NFL field is motion, whether it's jet motion, you mentioned orbit, which is end around style motion, or throwing him screens or handing the ball off to him off of motion. He's effective at that, and I think that they can get the Eagles on it. So I think that there's a world where that's Pop Douglas, and they just give that opportunity to Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
But in the preseason, Pop Douglas hurt himself on a screen, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't on the injury report. I hope they don't bury Pop Douglas for Jalen Reagor.
After
everything we went through this summer, that'd be disappointing.
I don't think they will. But I think that there's a chance that the Chiefs use Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. I think that there's a chance that the Patriots might try to hit them with a ton of motion and have both Pop Douglas and Jalen Reagor in their back pocket in case they need Reagor to do it too.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's possible that if Parker is limited or out and they feel okay about Matt Corral being the backup quarterback, that Jalen Reagor and Ty Montgomery are your elevation.
Spin this another way. What if they feel they don't need Ty Montgomery?
Then that too.
I almost feel like that's more realistic because
Yeah.
They used him as much as a receiver as it is a running back.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they'd flip that and say, all right, this is going to be – because he's not going to run out of the backfield, Reagor, but it's the same sort of skill set a little bit.
Yep.
So I elevating Reagor and Montgomery to me would be a little weird.
Okay, so maybe it's Reagor and Zappi at that point, or somebody else.
It could be your way too. I don't think
that they're going to
Zappi.
test the Eagles with motion, and I think that that's the one thing I saw Reagor do at a decent level from last year. All right, let's take this call and then we'll wrap it. All right, Mark is in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Evan, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
Mike Evans, what is your thoughts on bringing in Mike Evans? Because I think he's better than D-Hop, and he obviously wants out of Tampa.
It's a fair question, and thanks for the call, Mark.
I'd do it. I'd do it. I wouldn't give him an extension.
Yeah, see, that I don't know.
I'd take him as a rental for the year and say, look, we're going to throw you 150 passes, and you're going to get your value up, and you'll go cash in free agency. I'd give up a top 100 pick to get Mike. I wouldn't give up a first, but I'd give up a top 100 pick to get Mike Evans right now.
Mike Evans is no longer at the peak of his powers.
No, but he's still really good.
He's good, but my concern with him at this point, he's a far more durable Devontae Parker at this point to me. And that the durability is a factor. Don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling or downplaying the fact that Mike Evans being able to be out there for 17 games makes a big difference than Devontae Parker being in and out of the lineup. But from a skill set perspective, both of those guys don't separate a ton anymore. Both of those guys don't run by people a ton anymore.
Mike Evans is still pretty hard to tackle. It's more running through guys than running by guys.
But I'm talking about as a route runner. He's not he's not a separator. He never really was. But now as he's aged, it's obviously he can still play.
He can still dictate cover.
I'm not going to be contradictory because I said that I wanted DeAndre Hopkins so badly, and it's they're both in similar spots in their careers.
Evans is better. Evans is better than Hopkins at this point.
I think Evans he's more durable for sure.
I think he's better. It goes back to your thing about the Tuesday morning meeting. Is Mike Evans the guy that's going to draw the attention in that Tuesday morning?
What would you give up? Because I think that it's going to take less than people think if he does end up on the trade block. Can
I do it for a third-round pick?
I think you would win the bidding war for a third-round pick. I think that's the highest it's going to be.
I would absolutely do that.
So because of his years accrued in the league, the best comp pick they can get for him is a fifth. That's just the way the formula works.
I didn't even know that. All right.
So the best comp pick that they can get for him is a fifth-round comp pick. So if he's a free agent at the end of the year. So if he just leaves in free agency next year, the Bucs are only getting a fifth. So a fourth might get it done. And I know that sounds crazy because of his resume and his pedigree in the league. But look at the other trades for veteran receivers at that time in their careers. DeAndre Hopkins got nothing.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper got what, a fifth, I think it was?
No, he went for too much. Wasn't that the thing with him?
To Cleveland?
I'll pull it up. I thought they gave up a second and a fifth.
Oh, did they really? I thought it was.
But part of it was the new contract. I would trade for Mike Evans under the understanding that he's not getting a new contract.
All right.
Oh, no, you're right. It was a fifth and a sixth swap. I don't know who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So it's not much right now for the veteran receiver market.
Maybe I'm overpaying with a third. I'd still do it.
You need to beat a fifth, right? Because they're going to get a fifth just from letting him walk.
You need to beat a fifth, so everybody's going to offer a fourth. So you offer a third.
Yeah.
Maybe, and you get like a sixth back or something, and there you go.
Yeah, that's where I would do it too.
I would do it. I would absolutely do it.
Especially
But I
because-
would not. If he would he hold out? Because I wouldn't do it if he's expecting an extension.
Right.
I'm not giving it. But for this
No.
year, to maximize Mac Jones, to take some of the attention away from these other wide receivers, yes. But I'm not, if he's like, all right, well, if you're going to trade for me, I need an extension, or I'm not going to suit up. All right, cool. Hanging up the phone. I'm done. We're done here.
Okay. Cornerback matchups.
Yes.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know how you feel about it. I haven't even talked to you about this,
Okay.
I don't think.
I have a weird take on this, too, so this will be interesting.
I'm throwing Christian Gonzalez to the Wolves.
Oh, I have the exact opposite take.
I'm throwing him to the Wolves.
I have the
don't wanna
exact
hear it.
opposite take as you.
This bothers me, and it goes back to the Fangio thing, and we don't have enough time for me to really rant about this, but it goes back to you drafted the guy in the first round. You really, really like the guy. He's shown all the checked all the boxes to this point in his rookie campaign. He's ready to go. What are you hiding him for? What are you protecting him from?
So I honestly, just aside from that, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to throw him to the Wolves. I almost said to the Bills. They'll throw him to the Bills. That's going to happen.
I think they need to.
Why?
Two reasons.
You're talking about him on an island with A.J. Brown. Are you talking about him covering or him on an island? Because I took
wouldn't
that to
say-
mean him on an island.
I would not say on an island. I think that's putting a little bit too much of it's oversimplifying it. But
Here's how
I don't
have
think
it.
you can scheme around this game plan being like, we need to protect Christian Gonzalez.
Okay, no, and I don't think you need to do that either. But here's how. There's one very obvious matchup here when you're putting it together.
Yeah.
Jonathan Jones on Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
That to me is so the whole thing. Their philosophy. We're going to put. Do you think they truly view Gonzalez as like their number one corner, or do you think there's some flexibility in that at this point?
I think that they view it as body type to body type. more
Okay,
than
so
that.
perfect. So Jonathan Jones on Devonta Smith.
Yeah,
that's the guy you're leaving alone.
Yeah.
That's the guy you're saying you take him out.
Yeah.
Now I'm going Christian Gonzalez on A.J. Brown with help.
Okay.
Marcus Jones in the slot because the Eagles slot receivers suck. Honestly, it's going to be mostly Devonta Smith, and we've already established that's Jonathan Jones. If it's Devonta Smith in the slot, then it's Jack Jones on the other corner. If Devonta Smith's on the boundary, then it's, again, Jonathan Jones in the slot, and you're mixing Jack Jones in with Christian Gonzalez, throw different looks, and then Jalen Mills on Dallas Goedert.
Okay, so I agree with Jalen Mills on Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, that
I
one's
think we're
pretty easy.
in similar places. I think the Eagles are going to play a ton of 12 in this game, and I think that the Patriots should match it with 3 or 4 safeties on the field.
Yeah, then you take Marcus Jones out as the slot corner,
so
and it's
I think they're going to
Gonzalez
play.
and John Jones.
I think they're going to play big nickel and big dime and
Yeah.
play 2 corners a lot of this game.
Love that.
I think that your corners are Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones on Devontae Smith. I like that.
And that's the
matchup.
island.
Yep.
He's not getting help.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. You can't double both. I've heard this before.
Right.
Because they'll run the ball right down your throat and they'll run for 250 if you do that. Because you're going to have 2
I've seen them
safeties
do it.
deep and there's nothing going to be in the middle of the field and they're going to torch you like that. You have to get the extra hat in the box.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to have 7 guys in the box. You just do. So what you do in my mind is you put Christian Gonzalez on A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And then you find a way to help him in the respect that you're going to have a help defender take away something from A.J. Brown. So what a lot of good teams do is they take away that first window throw.
Yeah.
So they're going to have the corner play off of A.J. Brown, but they're not going to give up the quick slant or the quick curl because they're going to have a defender in that passing lane.
Right.
So now all Christian Gonzalez has to worry about is verticals and like skinny posts, right? Like
Right.
the deeper slants.
Or out routes.
Right. But he's only worrying about things that are breaking at like 8 yards.
Right.
He's not
Right.
worrying about all the quick stuff underneath because you have the defender there. So he's going to be on A.J. Brown over the top one-on-one.
Yeah.
But he's going to have a head start.
So and this is where the whole thing is interesting with Devin McCourty. In the past, it would be A.J. Brown or Christian Gonzalez on A.J. Brown with Devin McCourty as that over-the-top help safety.
Right.
That guy's not there anymore. So instead, now you're helping on the short stuff and you're having Gonzalez take away what's
Yeah,
because
so-
once they get down the field, Gonzalez, A.J. Brown, if he's not the best jump ball receiver in the league, he's up there.
Yeah.
But Christian Gonzalez, you drafted him to be competitive at the catch point.
Yeah, and he's their best body type.
Yeah.
Like he's 6'1", 6'2". He runs like the wind. You can't hide him from A.J. Brown in this game.
Right.
This is what he's here for.
So the way you gave your initial take was like you're going to have Christian Gonzalez on A.J. Brown on one side, and then that's going to be it
Right.
for that matchup. That's what you had me
no,
thinking.
no.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't do that. I don't think even though people think about like Ty Law, Darrelle Revis, Gilmore as being on islands, they were never truly on islands in that respect.
Sometimes.
Not
I think
like
sometimes
that.
they were. I think Gistef was.
They always had post safety help. At least.
Okay. Well, yeah, they had Devin McCourty.
Yeah. At least.
Lawyer Malloy.
So that's the thing about Christian Gonzalez is I've seen a lot of he can't cover AJ Brown. He has to cover AJ Brown.
That's the matchup. You drafted him to cover this guy.
Yeah. And if he has a bad game against AJ Brown, that's one of the best receivers in the league. You tip your cap. You'd say he's a rookie in his first start, and he got torched by one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL, and it is what it is. But if you go into this game plan thinking that we have to double AJ Brown at all costs, you are going to give up so much everywhere else that you just can't do it. Like they have too many things to cover. So that's the CB matchups. Really quickly, your thoughts on Brady coming back? Like, I think the best thing, we can reminisce about Brady any day of the week. What are you most looking forward to about the Brady festivities?
When the opening notes of public service announcement hit.
You think that's happening?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. So, and I really don't know very much.
They have to play it when he walks out. I don't know. Maybe it's pregame. Maybe it's halftime. Like, I don't know when they do that.
It might be halftime.
And he's not going to run down the sideline or anything, but
no.
Those opening notes, when that hits and just the energy in the building, that's going to be unbelievable. Here's my weird hot take on the Brady thing.
Yeah.
Don't give him everything. Make sure there's reasons to have him coming back.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay. Because, there's jersey retirement.
Yeah.
There's Pat's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I know some people, and I'm not going to make you give anything away, but some people have talked about there maybe being like the Patriots starting some sort of Ring of Honor or something like with him, which would make sense. They're probably going to name the statue or naming something after him.
Yeah.
My tinfoil hot take conspiracy theory.
Okay.
The Tom Brady Lighthouse. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but that would be cool. But space it out. Don't do it all at once. We don't need it all at once. Keep him coming back.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, the second, my Brady thing.
I'm also one other thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
When these things happen, whether it's like after the Super Bowl and they bring out the trophies, or when different guys get in the Pat's Hall, the other guys who come back, just seeing them back is cool too. And who's good? There's certain guys you just kind of figure are going to be here, but who's good? Is Gronk going to be here?
Yeah,
that would be interesting. The guys I'm sure Edelman will be here. I'm sure James White will be here. Yeah. How many guys from those earlier teams will be back? Troy's obviously going to be coaching, but will you see a guy
Seymour?
Tyler? I'm trying to think of offensive guys. Kevin Falk will probably be here, I would think.
Ben Watson?
I could see Ben Watson coming back.
Dan Graham?
I could see that. Dan Graham would be cool to see.
Matt Light might be here.
Now, could we get Antoine Smith back here? Would Corey Dillon come for that?
Has Antoine Smith been back for anything?
He was back, I think, when they did the anniversary of the 2001 team. Remember, they had there were only 4 or 5 guys that weren't here for that. They were obscure. Matt Stevens was here.
Teddy Bruschi?
I would assume Bruschi.
McGinnis, maybe?
McGinnis, I don't know what his situation is.
That's fair.
Bruschi, if he'll be in Connecticut, right? Because he does.
Oh, I don't know if he's on the air on Sunday.
I think he is Sunday mornings.
Rodney is, right? So.
Rodney's on Sunday night. Yeah, actually, Rodney probably won't be here because it's Sunday Night Football.
And I don't think Devin will be here because of that too.
Well, no, actually, maybe for pregame. They take helicopters. They'll get in there.
That's a little much.
Teddy, I think they get off the air at 1 in Bristol.
Yeah.
He could get here for halftime for a 4 o'clock game.
Alex is putting Teddy in the car with the police escort.
I think he could do it.
All right, so I'm going to...
Oh, how about, you think Charlie Weiss will be here?
Maybe.
That would be kind of interesting.
He's Sirius XM, he does radio, so I don't know.
Yeah, all these guys have media stuff now.
Yeah.
Who's the most obscure player that will be here? Give me a name.
Matt Chatham.
No, that doesn't count. He works. He's working the game. That doesn't count.
I'm just messing with you.
I'm gonna go Mike Cloud.
Okay, that is. I mean,
BC standout Mike Cloud.
There could be some random receivers that played with him that caught passes from him. like a Mike Wright or
Tim Wright.
Yeah, Tim Wright. Yeah, Tim Wright.
Big Matt Mulligan.
Matt
Langle. No, Matt Langle. He has big Matt Langle.
So I'm gonna. This might be
Josh Gordon.
This is a little bit more of your station take, but I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna be playing body language doctor a little bit on Sunday.
What, with him and Bill?
No, just him in general.
Okay.
Is he doing this out of obligation or because he really wants to be here?
Well, that goes back to my point of make sure there's reasons, because is he just like, all right, I'm coming back once, get it all out, let's get it all out of the way, let's do all of it.
No,
That's
I
kind
don't
of where
think
my
that's
take
happening,
comes from. Okay.
especially because we've already said it's going to be at halftime, so you have 8 minutes at halftime. So you can't do all of that in 8 minutes. My one little body language doctor thing is that I do really want to know, is he into it? Like, is he really, really into it? Because to your point, like public service, and like he should run onto the field. Like, you know, like
he doesn't need to run all the way down.
I'm
the
not saying
sideline,
like,
but like,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that should be a
pump
moment.
the crowd up. Pump the crowd up.
Yeah, and like, is he rooting for the Patriots? Is he into it? Is he like, does he look like he wants? And I'm not gonna hold it against him if he doesn't, but I will admit, as a Patriots fan, my fandom in me, it does still kind of hurt that way it ended, right? Like, and I'm not saying that it's all his fault, and I completely understand both sides of it and understand his side wholeheartedly. But at the same time, like, I didn't become a Bucs fan, right? Like, we're still Patriots fans here, and the Patriots are still the Patriots to us. And is he going to recognize in his post-playing career as a Patriot through and through, or is this going to be like Tom Brady, and then it's going to be Patriots, Bucks, Brady, TB12, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that is interesting to me. It's not the most important thing, and I'm glad he's coming back, and it's nothing like that. I'm just wondering, how much does he really want to be here? I know that he is really tight still and has a ton of respect for Mr. Kraft, as we all do, and I know that it's a possibility that he's coming back because Mr. Kraft asked him to, and he did it because of that. And if that's all it is, then that's going to be a little disappointing.
Yeah.
It is. And I think for a lot of Patriots fans, myself included, to close the book on Brady and to like feel good about Brady again 100%, we need to like stop acting like he ever played for the Bucs.
So I remember, at the same time, they should call him a 7-time Super Bowl champion. Don't, take that away from him. I mean, the respect goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you completely ignore but you make it about the Patriots. But, like, don't be like, he won 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots. Call him a 7-time Super Bowl champion. That's what he is.
They're going to say 6 with the Patriots.
They're going to say that, but I'm saying,
I'm not
like,
saying
don't.
that as, like, inside information. I just feel like that.
But also, like, don't. If they don't mention the 7th one at all, I think that would. He could be rightly annoyed by that. I'll say this. There was a picture, Mac Jones rookie year, it was taken on the sideline before a game. It was probably the game whoever it was that got inducted that year got inducted in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Was that Seymour? 21? Or was Seymour was last year.
It might have been Seymour. I don't know.
Whoever it was, Drew Bledsoe was here.
Might have been Vince.
I think it was Vince. I think you're right, which makes it weirder that Drew Bledsoe's here. But the point being, like, there's a picture of Mac Jones, Drew Bledsoe, and Robert Kraft on the sideline before the game. And it was like, by the way, Drew, I'm hoping, will be here on Sunday.
I think
I need a picture of Mac Jones, Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe, and Robert Kraft.
Okay.
I remember seeing that picture and being like, there's something missing here.
I know, but don't leave Steve Grogan hanging like that, all right? Let's
but it's because the whole thing is
the succession.
Right. As long as Kraft has owned the team for so many years, and they've really only had 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If Grogan wants to be in the picture, he can be in the picture. But the idea is, like, Robert Kraft has owned this thing for...
How could you do that to Steve Grogan?
Robert Kraft has owned this thing for so long, and to have that little turnover quarterback, and obviously Brady's a big part of it, but I mean, Drew, 96 to 01, 7 years is a long time in the NFL.
Yeah. No,
right?
Drew's the second best Patriot quarterback of all time.
Now what are you doing to Steve Grogan? No, you're right.
No, it's true.
Brady, Bledsoe, Mac, Kraft. I need that picture.
Okay.
I need that because when they took it in 2021, and obviously Brady was still playing. He obviously was going to be there, but it was like, this is almost the perfect picture. Almost.
Alex is going to hang that up in his bed.
I got to go find that picture now.
Over his bed. It's gonna be a shrine. All right, we gotta go. They've already opened locker room on us.
I saw that. Zeke already spoke.
So we're behind the 8 ball here, but we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place, to break down this Eagles game, preview the Miami Dolphins in a throwback week next week against the Miami Dolphins. So we have Brady and then we have throwback week back to back, kicking off the season with
that's
bang.
Almost the anniversary of because our first show here was a throwback. Oh, that was week 5, but
yeah, there you go. All right, so we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.